Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. I hope you are well, and I hope you are ready to meet your new week because it'll bring new challenges and there'll be some things for you to do or do differently. And I'm glad to be with you this morning. I see some of y'all are active in the chat already, so I'm glad to see you here. Good morning, Nancy and Lachey and Erica Smith, Jatina Cole, Amy Stockwell. Hi, Miss Dana, Erica Smith, Teresa, Keisha Simpson, Miss Clarissa. Hi there, Lakeisha. Hi, Sheila Henry. All right. Good morning, Lola. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I had a plan of what I wanted to talk to you about. I have all these notes. I'm going to save these for another week. Because I woke up with something else that I wanted to talk to you about today. And I'm going to go with it. And I'm not going to spend too long on it this morning. I'm going to hit it and quit it. As people in my life tell me to stop saying. Who knew that had like sexual connotations? I didn't know. I mean, whatever. We're doing the best we can here, people. It's live, which means we try to be thoughtful about what we're going to say. But then, we do what we can. Yay. I see, Lachey, you said you're loving week 2 of the 28-day prayer journey, and I'm glad to hear that. For those of you all who are doing it, I'm happy that you're doing it, and I hope that after doing it, while you're doing it, you feel a sense of closeness to God that is marked and different than what you have felt before. I hope you experience answered prayer, and I hope that you are convinced that making room to talk to God changes your life, changes your mind, changes your soulish environment. It changes your day. That's my hope. And if you're not doing the 28-day journey with all the girls who are joining the Faith Gateway online study, then first of all, let me just say it's not too late. You can do that. It's never too late. And then also, if you just decide you want to do it or do it later, you can do that too. So give yourself some grace and then decide what you want to do, to jump in now or to wait and then do it on your own. I will put up the website for it just in case, since I'm mentioning it. All right, let's see here. There we go. I think I just threw it on the screen. There it is. Faith Gateway /OBS. Yay. Okay. Yesterday, I had a whole nesting situation. I say nesting because that's the closest thing I can define. I just got sick of certain things. I've had papers all over my office floor for weeks since we've moved, papers that honestly I still need to go through, but they had just been dumped there. And little by little, as I was looking for something, it just became more and more of a mess because I would get what I needed, but wouldn't, come back and straighten it up and clean it up. And then the same was true of some stacks in my kitchen, and I had a box that had been sitting looking at me for, I just had it. And so while I still have a long way to go, I spent the better part of yesterday decluttering and organizing, tossing, putting papers aside that need to be recycled, just doing that thing in my life. Have you ever had that feeling where you're just sick of it? You know what I mean? You just have had it, and you have a moment, or you create a moment where you're going to do something about it. I had, in this office here, which still is under construction, my hope is that it'll be finished soon. So I have this very, very tiny, tiny room. It's probably, 8 by 10. Is it 10 by 10? If that. It's a very, very small room. So the goal was to have 2 walls, or at least 2 corners, that I could film. So I could turn my camera around and, like this is one look and then we're going to have another look, at least two looks. So I could, in this room film, and it's a dark room. So it has one little window, and then I have all these lights on, and then I have this one ring light on. And anyway, but I keep coming in and sitting down in this one little spot because that's what y'all can see. But everything else was a disaster. I had a basket here. I had camera equipment over there stacked in the chair. There were wires going in both direction, and I had just had it. Like I just came in here and I was like, okay, enough's enough. This is ridiculous, And I just came in here and spent the day between a room in my home and this room, in the home. I just was like, I just needed to straighten it up. Now, that was not how I planned on spending my Sunday. That was not how I planned on spending my Sunday. But I just realized that I would be better off going into this week with more organization than what I've had in the past couple of weeks. That it would give me a greater, it would give me a better mindset approaching my week. It would help me to be more focused and more accomplished. Um, because it was low key getting on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? Just getting on my nerves. So while I talk a little bit more, I would love to know. I would love to know. See, y'all like I love decluttering. I would love to know. I'll tell you why I don't love decluttering in just a second, okay? But I'm going to ask you this question first. I can get y'all going in the chat. I would love to know. I have two questions. The first one is, what did you do with your Sunday? What did you do yesterday with your day? Love to know that. That's part A. And then once I see y'all answering that, then I have a part B question. Yeah, yeah, Miss Dana, the cleaning tornado hit. Yep, yep. And that's basically what it is. Because I can live with it. Like some people need it, like their OCD and everything has to be in its place every day. I'm not like that. Like I can function. I've learned how to function. I do believe I'm a type A person. I've learned how to function type B because my type A was making me angry with everybody all the time and frustrated. And I had to learn to let some things go. But every now and then, my type A is like, oh no, this is not how we're going to do this. And it just rises up. So yeah, and that's what happens. My kids tell me, oh Lord, she's in a cleaning mood. That's exactly what happens. All right, Karen, we started like 10 minutes ago. You didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay, so you plan your week, you worked, you slept all day, church and celebrating birthday, church and cooking. If it was your birthday, Portia, happy birthday. Church, family time, and meetings. I meal prep for the week and then soaked in Epsom salt. Now the question is, did the meal prepping for the week, is that what caused you to have to soak in Epsom salt? Or were they two independent events? I worked full day at my part-time job, then I went for a massage. Yay! Cooked Sunday for my family, church, cleaned, and worked on my side hustles. All right then. I work weekends. All right. Watched football and chilled. Part A, finished getting the house ready for the week and rested. Made meals for my son and daughter-in-law. They brought my new baby grandson home. Congratulations. Church, football, nap, Bible study. Rested in the Lord all day. It was great. Weekend was spent with my hubby. Okay. Netflix and chill. All right. Hey, Jarabia, you went for a walk, ate dinner, played games with the fam. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. This is great. I need to get type B. No, you don't. I don't know who you are. Stay consistent. Cooking for the week. Church, clean, organized. Awana for kids. Visited my mom. All right, good, good. Love hearing about what y'all did with your life yesterday. Yes. Okay, so here's my question for you. Um, okay, here's my question for you. What currently in your home needs decluttering? What currently in your home needs decluttering? Like what? Just one thing, one spot, one room, one box, one drawer. Like be very specific. And I would love to know. Yes, Justine, it was hair wash day. It's a whole thing. It sure is. I've decided to make hair wash day a 3-day situation. I've decided to wash it one day, wash it and blow dry it, then go to bed. Because if I'm hot from getting out of the shower, the blow dry, I'm still sweating in my head. So I need a break. The next day, I'm going to just not do anything because I'm recovering from the first day. And then the third day, I'm going to do a quick reset blow dry on it just to get the roots. And then I do a curl. And then the next day, I just, I pin curl it and then I take out the pin curls and refresh and go. It's just, I give myself grace. Books, the junk drawer, my office, my study area, my office, the hallway, the basement, the closet, my brain. Listen, Miss Marquez. The basement room, dressing room, toys in the girl bedroom, everywhere. My guest room, closet, office space, my kitchen drawers, every room. However, I've started in my room. Very good. You got to pick somewhere to start, Becca. Office desk, my sectional in the living room, my bedroom closet. There must be a delay on YouTube. There's a slight delay. Slight. Very slight. Honey, if you're natural, it's a whole ordeal. It is. Extra bedroom. It's a 3-day process for me too. Hey, Britt. Okay. Front bedroom closet. Okay, yes. So we all have an area that needs to be decluttered. We all have one. Okay. So I just want to give you permission to pick an area. But here's what I discovered yesterday. Here's what I discovered. I discovered that I really want to commit to finishing an area, even if that means I have to do it on rotation, right? So I get overwhelmed. If I go into, let's say, if I go into my office and I declutter and I spend all day there, right? And I don't finish, because a lot of times, we like to go deep because we have time and because we have the energy and the motivation to do it. And then we lose the energy or the motivation and then we don't come back. But then the next time we have energy and motivation, it's for something else. So we never really experience the beauty of finishing it, right? Of starting something and finishing it. So my revelation yesterday was that I'm going to make a list of the things that I need to work on and just rotate through them. So I can pick 3 areas, but I'm committed, because change sometimes is a little bit of a motivator. I'm committed to getting those rooms organized on that rotation. So let's just say yesterday I worked on this room here. Okay. Then that means the next time, if I don't want to work on this room here, that there's another room that I've already identified that comes next. There's another project, right? So maybe I'll go into the boys' bedroom because there's still some boxes in there and rearrange in there. And then when I get overwhelmed because the decision making at a certain point, I get fatigued. There are certain things I haven't known what to do with in 5 years. What makes me think I'm going to know what to do with them today? Okay, then after that, I can move to my kitchen, right? And then there's the Tupperware cabinet, because we all have a Tupperware cabinet that needs to be decluttered. And then I will do that. But then after I've made it through that 3rd rotation, if I have 3 rotations, I come back to this room. Does that make sense? So I want to give you the freedom to, yes, finish what you start. You should finish what you start. But you don't necessarily have to stick with the same thing in order to finish. You can rotate. There's a principle, even in gardening or farming, where you rotate the soil, and that makes the soil stronger when you come back. Not only if you put different crops in that soil, do the crops get enriched in a different way, because the offput, I guess, from one crop nourishes the soil in one way, and then when you come behind it with another crop, it nourishes the soil in a different way. And when you come back with a 3rd crop, it nourishes the soil in a different way, and then you give the soil a rest, and then you can come back with the 1st crop, and the soil is richer for having been rotated than when it was if you just do one thing all the time. So I want to give you permission. If you are a start and finish in the same place kind of person, awesome, do it. I also want to give you permission to make a list of the things or the places in your life that need your touch, whether it's decluttering or whether it's cleaning, the people in your life that need your touch, whether it is your family or your friends. And you can go hard in one area. I also want to give you permission to cycle it around, okay? To cycle it around. Let me read some of your comments here, because I know that y'all are dropping wisdom here. Let's see here. Candace said, when I intentionally declutter, I decide how long I will work on it and then come back to it. It helps me not to be overwhelmed. Yeah, that's good. And the thing is, we'll work on it until we burn out, and then we don't come back to it. So we have to give ourselves permission to do it in a way that works for our brain. All right. And then Portia said, my type A will not allow me to stop until I finish. And I would say more power to you. If you start and then don't stop until you're finished, and when you're finished, you feel satisfied. When you're finished, you feel whole. When you're finished, you are happy. It didn't steal anything from you. If that feeds you, do it that way. Um, Justine says organizing in chunks works for me. Awesome. Awesome. Oh Lord. Yes, Cornelia, the box of photos. So I bought a scanner because my wedding photos, um, I don't have them. I have the photos on my wall, but I never got back around to the photographer to make my book. It's been 20 years, y'all. So one of my major goals is to get, but he did give me my negatives. He was like, I'm not even doing that anymore. So he gave me my negatives, but in order to digitize them, I had to buy a machine. It was either going to cost me $1 million to pay somebody, like to give them to a company to digitize, or I could buy the machine and digitize them. So I have this Epson large format V600 photo situation here. Here, let me see if I can. No, I can't do it. Can't do it. I was going to show you a different camera, but I only have one camera connected today. Anyway, and then I have a box of my negatives. And so, y'all, it takes a long time to scan in these photos. So I'm doing them slowly but surely. One of the girls is helping me with it too. Miss Sharita's been helping me with my photos. And we just have to keep coming back to it. And so organizing in chunks is helpful as well. But the thing is, do you keep coming back to it? That's the thing. A little bit here and there. My mother would call it piddling. She would say, I'm just piddling, just working on something. Hey, Lori, you're working on decluttering your desk. You have it scheduled on your planner today. Use your time timer, water, and good music. Listen, there is such a thing as a Pomodoro timer. If you've never heard of a Pomodoro timer, I wanted to tell you about that today. You can look up Pomodoro on your phone in your App Store or your Google Play Store, whatever you have. And there are different kinds. There is a simple one that I like. But basically, the idea of it is that you decide that I'm going to work on something for an hour. Then you plan in a 15-minute break or 5-minute break. So you may go like 25 minutes and then 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break, and then 25 minutes and a 15-minute break. When I'm writing, 25 minutes is too short. So I will set it for like an hour or 90 minutes, and then I take a 15-minute break, and then I come back for an hour, then I take a 15-minute break, and then I go for, maybe another 30 minutes, and then I take an hour break. And so it's just a way of tricking your mind. So I've got a couple of them. This one is a tomato timer. So this is what it looks like. And then you literally you press it and it just starts. Let's see here if I can do this. There we go. So it just counts down. And then you can see little by little the timer disappearing. It starts disappearing. And so it gives you this visual thing of how much time you have left. That's something that I have had my boys do because, they get distracted. There's also this one. I actually don't really understand it that much. But you're growing a tree. Okay? You're growing a tree. And the thing is if you keep going, the tree keeps growing. But if you literally click away from this, right? So I've clicked away from it. I went to my text messages, right? Then I get this message that says, go back and save your tree. Okay. So if you come back to your tree after too long, then the tree dies. So literally, if you click away for more than a few seconds, your tree dies. That one's called Flora. There's a million of them. So you just have to try the one that works for you. Okay, but that's a mind trick thing that a lot of people will talk about. Pomodoro, Pomopadoro. All right. Yay. Okay, so yeah, it's just one of those things if you're trying to work on a project. Tracy's here, y'all. Bang, bang. Good morning. Hi, Vanessa Harris. Okay. So I'm going to jump into what I want to talk to you about this morning. Oh, Bridget. So I'm not the only person who needs to get their photos, just their wedding photos. Y'all, this ain't even my other photos. But one advice that I've gotten over and over again from people who are like, how do you get organized? I talked to y'all about Miss Freddie. I have a friend of mine named Miss Patrice who lives in the area here near me. Used to go and have crop nights with her doing creative memories. She would say, start with the current year and work yourself backwards. You need immediate success. And so if you don't start and get this year organized, then you'll forever be behind. So I still believe in printing photos, but digital photo books, they make the world go round. So there's that. Poor tree. Well, the reason why the tree works with the boys is because then I know if they stayed on their phones or not and stayed focused. Because if they get off, then the tree is dead and there's proof. Okay. I've had a lot of people ask me about um, the screen timers for my children on the phones. This morning's teaching is going to be really short, y'all, because I have something very specific I want to say, and I'm going to hit it and quit it and get off. There I go again with the hit it and quit it. So in my settings, I wish I should have hooked. Oh, maybe I can still do it. Wait. Oh, shoot. Where is it? Y'all, I'm just not prepared this morning. That's the bottom line. Normally I have my computer hooked up to my phone too, and I don't have it hooked up this morning. I'll show y'all next week. Y'all remind me. Y'all remind me. I'll hook up my phone so I can show y'all how I set the screen time for my kids. All right. Yay. All right, let me jump into it, y'all. Let me jump into it. Okay. So I had this whole talk that I was going to talk to you about, and I will. It's about the power of influence because there's some more work that I want to do on that talk, some things I want to share and show with you. Um, but I wanted to present that in a better way. So I want to spend more time on it. That talk is coming. How you can be an influence to other people, how you can be influenced by other people, and the power that we all have to be an influence. And to be mindful about that so that you don't waste your influence or misspend your influence. All right, but I want to talk about something else. So here we go. Tarnisha said, I have an internal timer due to all the water I drink. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Amy, my kids hate me too. They hate me too. It is what it is, right? I could be their friend later. All right. Hold on a second. There was something I was looking for, and now I can't find it. All right. All right. There we go. Ah. All right, y'all. So this morning I'm going to be talking about changing your mind, the power of your pivot. That's what I want to talk about this morning. If that's all right with y'all, that's what I would like to talk about because I think some of us need to free ourselves up to do that. We really do. And because we're so committed to the thing we've done for so long, we don't free ourselves up to do the thing that that we know we need to do. We are afraid of the cost of making a shift. The problem is life is change. Life is change. So let me show y'all this, and I'm gonna pull it up, and then I'm gonna share it too on the live. But so basically, I posted this on Instagram the other day. And I will, this was basically, it was the story I'm going to tell you in a minute. But if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. But I posted that picture because it was snowing outside and I was in the bed. And my daughter said, go outside, get some photos with your camera. And because it's great. And I was like, but it's warm and I don't want to do that. But it ended up with some great photos. I ended up taking some great photos. And that particular day, that was the right thing to do. Most of the things that we have that come about in our lives, we don't plan for. So many things come about we don't plan for. We don't see it coming. We don't even realize that we need to prepare for it. It's just an opportunity presents itself. And it is what it is. We either go with it or we don't. And some of the best decisions that you can make in your life is recognizing an opportunity and not fainting away because of the worry of what will happen if you make a change. So, yeah. So that's what I wanted to say about that. All right. So let me get going with my official talk and say what I need to say to y'all. All right. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Do y'all like this? Going live with y'all and chopping it up before? Like, what do y'all think about this new situation? I'm curious about what y'all think about this new situation. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. Can y'all tell? My hair is like on its last dime. It's like, honey, you straightened me last week. Okay. Hi there. My name is Crystal Evans Hurst, and if you are just finding your way to me and you have no idea who I am or what I'm about, I'm here to encourage you. I actually go live with my inner circle every Monday morning, and then I share the replay of those conversations here. It is, I feel, my job to encourage you, to motivate you, and inspire you to live your life well, but in very practical ways. My hope is that after you finish listening and watching this morning, that not only are you inspired to do something different, but you are inspired to do something differently over the long haul so that you actually have change in your life. And I don't want you to just feel better. I want you to know what to do. That's the goal. So get your piece of paper ready and take some notes. If not, then just look below, because after we share this video as a replay, we'll add a few notes so that you can keep up with what you need to remember. Because y'all, listen, sometimes the YouTube is on in the car, is it not? While we're driving and we're listening, not watching, but listening. Here's the deal, y'all. I love YouTube and I learn so many things, but often people will share things with me and they are, or they share things with everybody, I guess, if they're on YouTube, and they are telling me something and I'm encouraged, but then I don't know what to do based on what I just heard. So that's the goal. I want you to know what to do. Here is the link to the Inner Circle if you would like to join my live audience that is actually watching me right now and sharing comments. I love hearing from them. Yay. Okay. I was just asking them how do they feel about this new format, because we used to have like 1,200 to 1,500 people on it. Cornelia is saying, I love it in the Inner Circle because I can actually keep up better. Patricia says, we get the behind the scenes. We've had a whole conversation before I've gone live this morning. Create Income Coach says, I absolutely love it, and I'm glad you all are here. All right, so here's the deal. I want to jump into it this morning because it's really important to me that you get this. I actually had something totally different planned to teach, to share, and I have been mulling on this over the whole weekend. I made some quick notes, and so this is a little bit unplanned and off the cuff, but my hope is that it is helpful to you. There is power in your pivot. That's the thing I want to say to you this morning or this evening or this afternoon, depending on when you're watching. There is power in your pivot. I said on Instagram, you can find me on Instagram at instagram.com/Crystal Hurst, ChrystalHurst. I posted a shot of a picture I took. Now I am doing a selfie. I'm actually using my phone to control my camera in that picture. It was snowing outside. I am wearing black underneath the gray and the colorful scarf because prior to this picture, I was in the bed enjoying myself. It was a Sunday afternoon in Texas, no less, snowing. And that was my plan. I'd started the fireplace and I wasn't planning on doing anything in the outdoors. And my daughter called me and said, Mom, get your camera, go outside, because she's a photographer. Karis Ferris. Yes, that's her real name. And she said, grab some pictures. It's a gorgeous day. And I said, oh my goodness. And so I grabbed one of my sons and they were cold and they came out with me for a little bit. Then I grabbed another son and he came out and, came out with me, and we were taking turns jumping in and out of the cold. And then I decided to just take my camera, take my tripod, take my phone, and then go to a different location and take some pictures. All right. So now here's the deal. I'm sitting here unplanned in my pajamas, y'all. That black outfit underneath the gray and the scarf that's colorful are pajamas. And then I throw on a cute jacket and a scarf and get to it. So I was able to grab some photos that I probably won't grab again this season because it does not always snow in Texas, because I was willing to get out of my house, right? Go to a spot that seemed to be a great spot to take some pictures, get out of my comfort zone, get my equipment, get my phone, review, remind myself of how to use the doggone remote on my phone because I'd forgotten, grab some photos. That day of snow was a change in the weather that was not planned for. I didn't know it was going to stick because in Texas it often doesn't stick. And had I decided that that was not my plan for the day, I would have missed the opportunity to grab photos that aren't a part of my normal opportunity. But I had to be willing to be uncomfortable. I had to be willing to learn something new or to remind myself of something that I'd known. I had to be willing to ask for help. I had to be willing to engage in a plan that was not planned. Throw something on, didn't plan on wearing those clothes, and do something different. Pivots in life come because there are circumstances that you don't expect. You're not planning on them. There are opportunities that show up, people that show up, jobs that show up, pain that shows up, promises that show up. There are things that just catch your attention, and you realize that in this season, on this day, this moment, that this is something you hadn't planned on, but are you going to make a shift in your plans and engage? That is a word I have heard over and over again. Pivot is a word I've heard over and over again in relationship to 2020. Because businesses that were able to pivot and decide to take their store online, not knowing how long the pandemic was going to last or when people would actually be able to come back out, if they were able to figure out, if they weren't online before, how to get online or how to better respond to their existing online situation, a lot of those businesses have been able to survive. It wasn't their plan. They didn't have anybody digital on staff. They didn't have a web person on staff. They didn't have a social media person on staff. Maybe they didn't have a robust web ordering system on staff. But because they realized the change in the weather, and they decided to move from what they had on to something that they had not previously been wearing, they were able to survive. Some of you all have had to pivot in expectations for your life because maybe it is a degree that you did not plan on getting, but you realized 3 years into it that the degree you were aiming for, the money that you had already spent, it's not exactly the thing. And so you were afraid because you'd already spent the money. You were bummed because you'd already spent the time. But you realized that maybe based on the job market or based on your interest or based on a calling that God resurrected on the inside of you, that it was time for you to make a change in your major, even if it was going to take you a little bit longer to finish with the degree, the new degree that you realize you need to get, because it was a pivot. And that pivot set the stage, or would set the stage, for you doing what you love or what you feel called to do for the rest of your life. So let me tell you about a few examples when I have been invited to pivot. Some of them I've taken and some of them I have not. Let me start about the have-nots first. Number one, on my wedding day, the lady, a really good friend of mine, her name is Rhoda Gonzalez, who was involved in a lot of our wedding planning, Priscilla's too. Before we walked down the aisle, she looked Priscilla and I in the eye. Priscilla got married before me, a couple years before me. She did the same thing for me that she did for Priscilla. She looked at us both in the eye and she said, "Now, everybody's here and they are waiting on you, beautiful bride, to walk down the aisle." And then she got real serious. "But if you change your mind, we can walk out of here right now. You are not married. You don't have to go through with it. The people will understand. They can take their gifts back. You can be friends with the person if he's not the one. You can maintain your dignity. You will get over this. If this is a decision that you're not supposed to make today, I will walk with you right now out of the back door and we will take you somewhere where you can recover. Do not get married just because you've gone this far. If you need to make a change, it's not too late." I did not pivot that day. I walked down the aisle and I married my husband. I cannot tell you how many women I've said that to. If you've changed your mind, it's not too late. In college, I realized in my third year that instead of getting one degree, I really probably should have gotten another one. And I did not want to change because I um, had spent the money, I'd spent the time. It's one of my regrets in life. Now, all things work together for good, and the degree I would have changed to didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But I wish I would have felt freer 3 years into my degree to change my degree plan because it just doesn't matter that much. It just doesn't matter that much. I'm texting my kids to make sure they're awake. So the first thing is it's never too late to pivot. The second thing is if you feel like you cannot make a change because you're already invested, you have the rest of your life to invest in the new decision. Okay? That's another example. I'm going to give you a third example of a time when I did not want to pivot. I don't like change because I don't, it's like Who Moved My Cheese? If you've ever read that book, it's like the person who can deal with the change is the person who can be more resilient over time. And resilient is a word that explains who we are when we're willing to go with the flow when things don't go the way we thought they would flow. But I actually did not want to change insurance. We've actually had the same car insurance for a long, long time. My husband actually made a change to our homeowner's insurance, and if we bundled it, then we got a better deal. But then you gotta change takes effort. You know what I mean? It takes time. You have to. What's the new number? I got to get the new paperwork. I got to make sure I'm doing. I didn't want to do it, and so we kind of got into a thing about it because whatever. But anyway, the point is that once I changed, because I just knew it was going to be worse, and this company's been cheaper, and then when I took the time to look at it, the new company was actually cheaper, and the change wasn't as challenging as what I thought. Change takes effort and time. You've got to put your credit card from the old insurance to the new insurance. But once I made the change, even as minor as this is, there was relief because in hindsight, the pivot to change put me in a better place. Often, the pivot to change puts you in a better place if you can get past the fear of making the change. So, we don't change because we don't want to change. We don't want to admit that we've wasted time. We're worried about what others may say. We're worried that we will spend more time recovering from the pivot than we will actually making the change. But the reality is that you will spend more time with the change potentially than you will. Hold on one second, y'all. I'm losing my train of thought because my son keeps texting me. Hold on. Hold on. We can just edit that out, y'all. All right, let me start that over. We don't want to change because we don't want to admit that we've wasted time. We don't want to change because we're afraid that to lose what we've achieved. What if we don't gain something when we change? And we feel that we're already too deeply invested, that we've spent too much time. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to be brave enough to change. I want to encourage you to be brave enough to walk away from that relationship if it's not the right one. I don't care how long you've been in it. I want to encourage you to go back for the college degree and to change your major if you realize that the one you've been aiming for wasn't the right one. I want to encourage you to change your insurance or whatever else you need to do in your processes and your personal plans, because the change, if you feel deep down that there's a change that needs to be made or at least investigated, has the opportunity to set you up for so many other things. I can tell you there are some things that I did not know that we needed to have insured, that once I changed my insurance and they asked me some questions, I realized that there were things I did not have insured that I needed to have it. And I would have never come into the knowledge of that had I not made the change in the first place. Sometimes the pivot that you make has the power to open your eyes. The power of the pivot, number one, is that you get your life back. Your decision to be in charge of your life by making a change means that you are in charge of running your life and that your life is not in charge of running you. The power in your pivot is that you are responsible for deciding how you will spend the rest of the days, regardless of how you spent your days formally. And often, regardless of how many days you have left, there is more power in living out your vision and your calling and doing that full front and full faced and full throttle than being married to something that you said you were going to do 5 years ago, a year ago, or even 50 years ago. You have the power to live in your new normal. And in your new normal, if that's the place that God is calling you to, there's power in the pivot because you find yourself going with the winds of change, with the rivers of change. And when He's moving with you, when the breath of God is moving with you, you can accomplish more with Him than you can in staying committed to the thing that you've done for years. There is power in your pivot because you have the ability to learn new things in new places. You will not be the same person in the new place that you have been in the old place because it takes such bravery to make sure that you're making a change and not staying married to the things of old, that it changes who you are and how you engage with your life. When you make a change, especially when you go in a different direction than what you've been going in before, it changes you. The power in pivoting is that it changes you. You wake up to the power that you have to do things differently. It is never too late to do things differently. So when you become aware of something that needs to be different in your life, realizing that you get to choose, here's what you need to do. Number one, you need to admit that what you've been doing, you don't want to do anymore. You need to admit that the way you set yourself up maybe wasn't the right thing, that the degree that you planned on wasn't the right degree. You've got to kind of admit, and that takes some grace and some compassion to say, you know what? I was doing it wrong. Or I was doing it right up to this point, but that was right then. This is right now. You've got to admit that something needs to change. That is the hardest part because nobody wants to admit that they made a bad decision. Nobody wants to admit that they did something the wrong way. Nobody wants to admit that they spent 10 years doing something that they never intended to do. Nobody wants to admit that they should have drawn the line a long time ago. That is a hard thing for somebody to look themselves in the mirror and say, oops, I made a mistake. The most important thing that you can do is to give yourself grace to say, you know what? I did it wrong. I did it too long. Or I just realized something and I did not know this. Admitting that you've been doing something one way and that you want to do something another way is the first step. The second thing is identify it. Identify the change that you're going to make. Call it out. Name it. And then identify not only the change that you want to make, but the expectation that you have for what will change in your life when you make a shift. And then the third thing is count the cost. Know and own the cost of your change. Because the worst thing in the world is to pivot, to do something differently, and then to go, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. Count the cost. Like decide up front, take your time and know that when I do this, here's what could happen. Here's what could happen. Don't allow your fear of the unknown, don't allow the fear of the unknown to make you hesitate in making a change. Admit that something's not right. Why ever it's not right. Whatever the reason is that it's not right, that does not matter. Just admit that it's not right. Identify what change you want to make and count the cost. And then you jump. I was looking at a website that said your dissatisfaction in combination with your vision, in combination with your first steps, once those three things are greater than your resistance for change, you'll do something different. If you know you need to make a change and you have not made that change, there are three reasons why. You're not dissatisfied enough. You don't have a vision for your life that you expect something beautiful to come out of your shift, or you have no idea where to start, or you think you have to have 25 steps forward in order to make any decision. You don't. You just need to have your first steps. So if you find yourself saying, I know I should do this, I've been knowing this for some time. Let me tell you why you're not changing. You want to know? Let me tell you why you're not changing. You're not dissatisfied enough. You don't have a vision for who you want to be. You have no idea what the steps are. And each one of those things you can shift. First of all, you don't have to have 10 steps. You need to have one. One. There are some things in life that will only happen when you take the first step forward. The second thing is create a vision. You want to know why people create vision boards every year? It's because they're looking outside of themselves to say, what resonates with me? What picture am I seeing in a magazine, or what photo am I seeing online that exemplifies to me what I hope to see in my life? You're not dissatisfied enough, because when you are actually fed up with your reality, you'll change. I was talking to a friend of mine who recently got divorced. She moved away and has restarted her whole life. She loves Jesus, and her husband has had some challenges over the years, long time. And the Lord had given her freedom to move on from that relationship with him. She didn't want to. They've been married a long time. They've got kids, grandkids. She's really committed to their marriage and to their legacy. And she did not want to do that. And the Lord told her, you need to move on. Like, you've done everything you're supposed to do. You've been long suffering and forgiving, and you've done everything you're supposed to do, but you need to move on. And she was so afraid to do that. And then she realized that she was fed up. We all know somebody like that. There's a woman who hung in there, for 20 years, 5 years, 30 years. And we say, especially when you get past that 20-year mark, now what happened? They've already put in all that time. Like, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. They finally got fed up. Now, I'm a proponent of staying married. You understand what I'm saying? There are circumstances that I believe, where God he gives us permission, not calls us, but he gives us permission to move on when a person's been unfaithful, or when there's abuse, or, there's a list of things I believe that God says for women. Hey, you're free to go. I don't think you should be frivolous about that, nor do I believe that, just because the courts say you can, that you should say you can. God has a different system. That said, if a woman who's been married for 30 years, who loves her husband and loves her family and everything that she's built, can say, I've had enough. And we probably all know somebody like that. Then that means that if you got to your third year in school and you need to change your degree, change it. If you are engaged to be married, and if you spent the money on the photographer deposit, and if you've already put the deposit down on your apartment, your new home, or you've already sent out the invitations, and deep down in your gut he's the wrong one, call it off. If you're building that new home and you're going to lose your money, your earnest money, the deposit that they make you make when they start building on your home, and this is not what God would have you do with your finances, don't do it. If you've served for 15 years in that ministry at church, and everybody thinks that if you don't stick with that leadership position, that the ministry will fall apart, but that God has called you to do something different, leave things in order, but leave. Sometimes God will not bring the ram in the bush until you're out of the way. There is power in your pivot, and there are certain things you will only capture when you move, because you recognize the winds have changed, that the snow is falling, that the weather has shifted, and you need to do something different. The power in your pivot is that the notification that your mind and your heart and your soul, the notification that the Holy Spirit gives you is timely. It's a timely notification. It doesn't mean you can't change. You can always change. But pivoting is normally indicative of a seasonal shift that has happened quickly without notice, that you have not been prepared for, and that you have to decide in one moment's time if you're going to go with it. You're taking a leap of faith and you're taking a risk. That the shift that you make in a moment may or may not work. It may or may not pay off. You may or may not have regrets later. But this is the beauty of living life. Now, of course, I want you to be sober of mind, and I don't want you to be foolish. I don't want you to make decisions that you regret because you didn't take the time to seek God and to pray about it. You should always do that. You should always know what God's word says. You should always know that the Holy Spirit is at work in you and that you should check in with him and pray and go with peace. But you have to know the difference between the peace that God gives and the peace that you won't have until you know the outcome. You can have peace in your heart because you know this is the right decision and still have a level of angst because you hope this turns out okay. And the key is to know the difference. The Bible talks about renewing your mind in Romans 12:2, and it says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is good, acceptable, and perfect. The pivot involves testing. Once you've done your part to think good thoughts, Philippians 4:8, once you've done your part to do your homework, to do your research, once you've done your part to use the brain God gave you and the common sense that you've gotten by living a little while, then you test it out. You test the waters. I've done this thing a couple of times. I think it might be the crazy Aunt Chrissy thing that I'm going to do. Fully clothed, I jump in the swimming pool. My kids wanted me to get in the pool one day. I didn't want to get in the pool, but they kept asking me, and I didn't feel like putting on my bathing suit and, it's just shimmying and all that. I didn't feel like it, but I just thought, it's hot out here. I'll dry off. And in a moment, I just thought, jump in the pool. Fully clothed, I ran and jumped in the pool. I had on these tight jeans and a t-shirt. And my son, my youngest son, he said, whoa, why'd you do that? I said, I just felt like getting in the pool. A few months later in the summer, different clothes, different day. And I looked at him and I said, I think it's time. And he said, what? He said, I think it's time. He said, time for what? And I just backed up and his eyes got big and he said, whoa, you're going to do it? And then as he said again, I was jumping into the pool. And then later, on another day, he said to me, Mom, you're so fun. I said, what? He said, you're so fun. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're always just jumping in the pool. I didn't always jump in the pool. I did it twice. I did it twice. But here's what happened in his mind. What happened in his mind is that twice she's taken opportunities to jump in the pool unplanned, unprepared. She just did the thing, and that makes her a fun person. You know what makes you a person who has the power to change? You only have to be willing to make a pivot, to test the waters a couple times. And then you'll find that you're a person who can go with the flow, who can make changes. Now, here's the thing I did not do. I did not jump into that water without knowing what the temperature was. I kind of walked by it a couple times and dragged my foot in the water because I wanted to know what I was getting into. But I didn't spend all day hemming and hawing about whether or not to just jump in. So yeah, think about it, use wisdom, talk to a couple people, But the power in you pivoting is that the change that you make, sometimes without a whole lot of forethought, a whole lot of weeks and weeks, months and months of prayer, a whole lot of reading of books, the thing that you just know down deep you need to do, it changes the narrative about who you are with you. And once you realize that you have the power to change in one area of your life, it gives you the power to know that you can change in any area of your life. I'm looking at some of the comments that the ladies are sharing, and I think I saw something that I wanted to share. The cherry on top said, "Did I just all tell y'all to jump in the pool, hair and all?" I kind of did. I kind of did. Kelly Fry, there it is. She said, "Our change enables change in others as well." It does. Because when they witness that we have the power to make a change in our lives and that things turn out okay, when they realize that the power in our pivoting started a domino effect of other things in our lives that we did not plan for, it makes them go, maybe I should take a chance on me. Now, I want to say, that pivoting does not imply irresponsibility. It does not imply a lack of wisdom. It does not imply that you should not seek wise counsel. It does not imply that you shouldn't do reading. It doesn't imply that you shouldn't pray about it. But it does imply that it will involve some risk. Yes, Arliss. That is the scary part. And when you decide to take on that risk, you do need to count the cost. I think about the Rolodex in my mind of the people who have made changes quickly. And there's one thing that is a common denominator for all of them. They caught the wave. When people are surfing, you can go out there with a surfboard, and water and a bathing suit. And you can be out there and enjoy yourself. But something happens when you catch the wave, when you stop what you're doing and get in position so that the wave that's coming, you can ride it. Here's the benefit of believing in Jesus. Here's the benefit of staying in tune with God. When He has a move happening in this world, you get a hint of that. And you get to stay in the flow of what the Spirit of God is doing in this world. I was watching or listening to a podcast a few months ago. It was called Making Oprah. And yes, Renata, the risk is so worth it. Antoinese, the risk is necessary to do something great. Oprah said in an interview with this person, she said, "What happened for me will never happen again." She said there were 3 network channels. There were men who were doing talk shows. The society was prime and ready for a woman to have a talk show, and a Black woman at that, because there was a move, of course, to have more women of color or people of color in front of the camera. So there was a narrow focus. I did not have much competition in terms of the 500, cable channels and Hulu and Netflix and all the things. There were 3 network channels. And there was a period of time during the day when women who were coming home from picking up their kids from school, where they wanted to connect with what was happening in the culture. And then there was a woman now who was on TV, a woman of color who was easily relatable, and 3 network channels. That setup created a wave that I was in the position to ride. Now, it's not to say that there won't be other people who do great things behind the camera and in the media world. She said, but what happened with me happened because there was an opportunity and I was poised and positioned to take it. A half of the ability to be empowered to pivot is that you are poised and ready to take it, which means that before opportunity presents itself, you have to get ready. You have to get ready. We had, at the end of 2019, about 100 women in our membership. And I had a membership because people had said, Crystal, how can I support what you do? And then we launched it at the in-person retreat in October of 2019. At the beginning of 2020, I had a goal. I did have a goal. I was encouraged by a friend to set a goal. And then the pandemic hit, and God said to me, go live every day. I said, okay. You have to understand that I've been podcasting for 6 years, and the main reason why I podcasted is because I didn't want to be on camera. Being on camera means you have to get dressed and you have to look decent. And I pride myself on being a homebody and not doing anything to get ready for the day in the morning except be with my kids. But God said go live every day. So the goal that I had for 2020, we tripled that goal. Not triple the membership. We tripled my goal. And the reason is because there was an opportunity that presented itself in that season to go live every day that I took. I didn't take it. I didn't go with it because I was trying to do anything with the membership. I wasn't trying to use that as a way to grow it. I was going through an open door to do something I didn't feel comfortable doing, to use technology I didn't know how to use. And that pivot, taking the opportunity to do what I was prepared and ready to do, which was talk to people. I've been talking to people for 6 years, but on video, that created an opportunity. And I want you to know that the reason why, when all of my speaking engagements dried up for 2020, that my family still ate was because the open door, the pivot that I was invited to take, created a whole nother opportunity that I didn't even dream about that. The risk that I'd look like a fool on camera, the risk that I wouldn't know what I was doing, the risk that there are so many people out there doing talk shows on the radio and on YouTube and on TV. Why do I need to add my voice to the mix? The risk that I wouldn't look decent in front of the camera, the risk that I didn't have a studio set up, and that would make me look like I did not have any authority. Who videos from their closet every day? But because I was willing to take the risk and do something that I wasn't comfortable doing, that I didn't totally feel prepared to do, but I was following the wave that God indicated in my spirit that I was supposed to take, it totally changed the narrative of so many things in my life. I cannot tell you how many things I should have pivoted from in my life. Relationships, degrees, jobs, commitments, ministries, people. Here's what I've learned. The power in your pivot, when you know down deep that God is calling you to do something different. Half of what will shift in your life as a result of you being obedient, you don't even know yet. But when you pivot and take the risk, when you are sure that God is leading you, directing you, don't be taking pivots and risks and you don't never read your Bible and you don't never pray. And then you be like, well, I didn't know. I didn't know that this was going to be a bad decision. Oh my goodness. You need to do it with wisdom underneath your belt. However, when you do it, there are doors that will open that you don't even know about. And here's what happens when you pivot. when you take risks in your life, when you take opportunities and walk through doors you didn't see coming, it gives you confidence because you can move through the rest of your life knowing that sometimes when you walk through doors not knowing where they lead, the best things are just out of view. So, pivoting has the power to teach you that risk taking isn't bad. Pivoting has the power to teach you that you can have vision for your life without knowing exactly how you get there. And pivoting has the power to teach you that sometimes dissatisfaction with your life, a holy dissatisfaction, is all you need to make a change. So admit where you've been barking up the wrong tree or climbing the wrong ladder. Identify the changes that you want to make, and then count and know the cost of your changes. And then take the leap. Take the leap. And again, I only can tell you with confidence to take a leap in your life and make a pivot when you are already in tune with God, when you are already in tune with yourself, when you already understand the importance of walking in wisdom and seeking wise counsel. But when you walk in those spaces and there becomes an opportunity for you to shift, and you know it deep down in your knower, sometimes it's only because you're willing to pivot that you recognize the power that you actually have. Sometimes it's all about resilience. Sometimes it's not about resilience at all. Sometimes it's about a power move. You just step into the next thing. Yes, Terry Blackwell, you don't know the plans that God has for you. That's why you have to be listening, watching, waiting, and paying attention. And when there's a wave, a move culturally in society, and then God says, pay attention to that. And there's a move in your marriage and your spouse with your children, and God says, pay attention to that. When there's a move in your heart, and the temperature has just changed, push through. Push through the worry, push through the concern, push through the nerves. And as I always like to say, sometimes you just need to do the thing. Now, don't be frivolous. Don't be unfaithful. Don't be the person who can't stick with anything. If that's you, I'm not talking to you, because you might need to stick with something and quit pivoting all the time. I'm talking to the person who is faithful and committed and has a hard time making a shift because you're afraid. A hard time making a shift because what will people say? A hard time making a shift because you've already invested your time, energy, or resources. And it just seems like if you pivot now, it's a waste. I'm talking to you. Be dissatisfied enough, have enough vision, and know that you don't need all the steps. Just one or two will do. And when you feel the winds changing, and you know, decide. That's it. Decide. And here's a question that I will ask you. Sheila said that's a good disclaimer. Yeah, because some people, they're looking for reasons to leave their husband. They're looking for reasons to leave their church. They're looking for reasons to be, inconsistent and irresponsible. I'm not talking to you. You know if that's you. That's why you got to have people in your life who can speak to that. What I'm saying is, when the winds change and the waves are rolling and God has said to you, Crystal, do it. We say on our team all the time that pivoting is pivotal to our team. In fact, when we were bringing on new interns and making that decision, one of the things that we said is People on your team need to be willing to pivot because you'll decide in a hot second, we're doing something different today. What I've learned is when I know, I know. I was afraid that the retreat that we held in 2019, who am I to host an event and have a retreat? And we weren't going to do it. And then we were, and then we weren't. And then I went to church on a New Year's Eve and it was clear as day. In fact, another girl who's a good friend of mine was at church, and she walked up to me after church and she said, "Did you hear what I heard?" And I said, "I heard it. We're supposed to do it. We did it and we sold out." There have been a few times in my life where I knew, and I made a shift. And I didn't know what the outcome was. I didn't know how it all turned out, but I knew. And every time you pivot because you are following the guidance of God in your life, because you have this sense of something deep down in your soul, every time you do that, you become a stronger decision maker, you become a better risk taker, and you become more convinced and confident in following the guidance of your spirit, of the Holy Spirit in your life, and following the guidance of your intuition. God gave us that. He gave us girls that. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. I'll tell you this one last story. I was not going to go to California in March of 2019. My dad was getting an award, and originally I was going to go, but then my kids had a basketball tournament, and that would have meant we were going from California to Missouri, and the tickets were outrageous, and we were going to be out of town for 2 weeks, and it just didn't seem feasible. And I was telling my mom about how I was trying to look through all the plans and figure it out. She said, "Crystal, don't come. Your dad is getting an award. He's going to be on stage for 5, maybe 10 minutes. Like, it's really okay." It just didn't feel well not going. I didn't feel right about not going. I told her I wasn't going to go, and I didn't feel right. And so right before the 21 days when the ticket prices shot up, I bought our tickets. I bought our tickets to California. I booked a hotel, and I called my mom and I said, "I don't know why, but we're supposed to be there." That was a decision I made in January, in February, mid-February. In March of 2019, we went to this event with my family. My siblings were all there. I took my kids. And the week before, my mother found out that her cancer had returned. After my dad received his award, and all day long we were trying to figure out what was wrong with them. They just seemed weird. Right after he got his award, he said, "I need you to meet me in our room." And all 4 of us met them in the room, and he told us that my mom's cancer had come back. I didn't know that I was supposed to be there. I didn't know why I was supposed to be there, but I knew I couldn't shake it. And so on a dime, I made a decision. Taking money from a place we had not planned to spend it, trying to figure out how I was going to, replace it, and so that money would be there for the purposes that we had originally intended. But I knew. I cannot tell you how many times I knew. Sometimes the pros and cons do add up. Sometimes your decision-making power is based in you taking your time. In fact, many decisions are made that way. And when you are able to move through your life with a rhythm that allows you to do things in a planned way, you should. You should plan. You should think things through. You should pray over things and take your time making decisions. But often the winds change in life. And the power that you have as a person is you have the ability to sense it. You just sense the winds change. It's like people that talk about they know when it's going to rain because their bones ache. There's something in you that notices when the weather is shifting. It's a part of the you can't see. It's just, it's built in. Scientists and psychologists will call it the lizard brain, the reptilian brain. When they talk about evolution, it's the part of you that's animalistic because it's the part of you where the hair stand up on the back of your neck when danger is happening. Okay. But I believe that there is some physicality to that. But I also believe that there's a lot of soulishness to that, meaning that God built into you the ability to notice things that are happening that you can't see. The power that we have as Christians is that we're not just tied into the spiritual in general, we are tied into the spiritual and God's interpretation of the spiritual, His eye on the spiritual, so that we're not just in some spiritual randomness, that we are actually tied into the will of God for our lives. But we have the ability to notice the winds change, which means that a lot of your power is actually in your ability to pivot. Make decisions. Stand by your decisions unless the winds change. So here's my question for you. I would love for you to answer this in the comments in the chat here if you're watching live, and in the comments down below if you're watching the replay. I want you to sit still for just a second and ask yourself this question. Where are the winds changing? And I know it. I can feel it. I can't shake it. Because some of you right now, that's all I can say. You just know. Yeah. Yes, Gwendolyn Williams, we have an internal radar, and that is God breathed. Ooh, I love this. Jamila Harris says, I canceled and then rescheduled my Christmas visit with my father, and he passed away that July, and I didn't know it would be our last Christmas together. I just felt it. Yeah. Yes, another word is discernment. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where do you need to free yourself to pivot? And here's all I can tell you. Now, when I make business decisions, and I'm a horrible decision maker. When I need to make a decision and I'm trying to look at all the facts and make the perfect decision, it's horrible. I take way too long to make decisions. But here's what I've learned. When I know, I know. And I will tell the girls on the team, I will tell my husband, I can't spell it out for you. I can't make this make sense to you. I can't give you the list of pros and cons. I just know. I just know. When you realize that you can pivot in your decision making and you see pivot after pivot, decision after decision that wasn't pre-planned, that those decisions were God breathed, oh my goodness, it makes you a really powerful person. Because you are able to operate not just on what you see. Do you know how many people operate just on what they see? Operating on what you see is limiting. It's limiting. when you are able to tap into your knower, the Holy Spirit, your intuition, the radar, your discernment, when you're able to tap into that and you can operate beyond what you see, which means making decisions you didn't plan to make, riding waves you did not plan to ride, making shifts you didn't plan to make. There's power in being willing to pivot. This talk did not go how I planned for it to go. I had some other notes. But I just want you to know, maybe this is more like a little fireside chat without a fire. I just want you to know that you don't have to know how everything turns out to make the right decision. Pastor Steph said it's important to be led by the Spirit of God. He gives clear, concise direction and then move, but not until. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you need somebody to give you permission to pivot, okay, you have permission. Okay. That's all I have today, y'all, for that. You're welcome, Cheryl. You're welcome. I was watching this girl. I was binging out on her YouTube videos all weekend, and she was talking about how she records her YouTube videos, and she sits there and she keeps recording, and then she messes up, and then she restates her stuff, and I was thinking, I'll never be that put together. I was like, I'll never be that put together. You know, I will say this, like, one of the things that I think moms need to recognize is that we have the ability to know. I mean, it's like, when kids are little, when they're too quiet. You notice when they're too quiet, right? Your knower says, your kids are too quiet. But this works when they're teenagers and young adults. And I said this when my daughter was in the third grade or the second grade, I think. No. Fifth grade. I was walking. She was at our church's school at the time, and she was doing something she shouldn't have been doing. I don't know, but I happened to walk by the gym, saw her, didn't say anything. So later on that day, I said, "So today, you know, um, why were you doing this?" And she was like, "How did you know?" And I said, "Oh, because God told me." And I said, "You need to know. God talks to me, honey, and He tells me everything I need to know. So you can tell me, or I can find out, or God can just tell me, but I will know." I was saying that, I was young and dumb. I was just making that up, right, to scare her, and it's like Santa Claus. But then I realized, oh my gosh, there's truth in that statement. As a mother, you know. You know when your kids need you to call. You know when something ain't right. You know when they need a letter or care package, or they need you to pray over them. And maybe you don't even call them. You just get on your knees because you just know there's something down deep in you. You just know. Yep, moms have spidey senses for sure. Yep, 100%. And you need to recognize That is your superpower. Like it's like I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like you as a woman have a superpower. As a woman who loves God, you have a superpower cubed. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You just know what you know that you know that you know it. But the power in pivoting because you know is that you actually start believing that you know. That's the thing. I David Mann, Mr. Brown, he said he and Tam, he went to high school with my husband, so we're friends with them. He he said he said he said I used to go into meetings, and Tam didn't really want to be involved in the business stuff, so I would just go into meetings without her. And he said I've learned in 25, 30 years of marriage. I think they married 25 years now. He said I've learned that I don't go into any meeting without her. He said, because even if she doesn't want to get embroiled in the details of contracts and stuff like that, she can scan a room and say, don't do business with them. Don't do business with them. And she said, I may not be able to tell you why. I may not be able to tell you why. Don't do business with them. Something not right over there. And he said, time and time and time and time again, he'll say no. He hates it because he really wanted to enter into this business relationship with this person. And it may be 6 months, it may be 6 years. And he'll look around and something wasn't right. And she didn't know why, but she knew it. So when you walk into a room, I need you as a woman to walk in knowing in every room, whether it's a room with your family, room with at work, a room at church, in your neighborhood, you have power, and sometimes that power means making a shift in the decision that you plan to make. So anyway, they're telling me that I need to get off. They're like, we gotta work. You recording, we gotta work. All right, y'all. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. I'm either gonna edit the mess out of this or redo it. I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, I need to pivot and get this mustache off my face. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see, even Michelle, even that, you're saying I'm the person that pivots too much. Yeah. So then the decision you backwards engineer it. What is the decision that you need to make to stick with certain things, right? There has to be an additional process for you to hold the pivots that you want to make in the light of. Hold on. Hey, Jasmine, who is that? Okay, y'all, I gotta go. This looks like a serviceman is here. But yes, you need to talk about that. Figure out what are the things you're supposed to stay faithful with. Be faithful. Don't pivot from those things. Okay? Because if you know you pivot too much, you already know the things that are that are not right that you need to stick with. You already know what those things are. You know what I mean? Don't pivot from drinking water. Don't pivot from eating vegetables. Don't pivot from, like, you know what I mean? You stick with certain things. There are certain things you stay faithful towards. You don't pivot from reading your Bible. You don't pivot from being on time for work. You don't pivot from those things. But do you pivot? Like some of y'all skip a job every year, okay? But that's not what I'm talking about. If you don't need to pivot, you already know that. Without me telling you that, you already know you make too many changes. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people who are when shifts happen and they don't take them. Okay, y'all are telling me not to edit. All right, y'all. Somebody's here, like a serviceman, to do some work. So let me go figure out what's going on. All right, y'all. I will talk to you later. And this conversation was a pivot, which means it wasn't as well thought out as I wanted it to be. All right. But I'll talk to y'all later. Apparently, it was a blessing, so we're going to leave it. Bye, y'all.